Here we go. This is not a Scat Pack project. This is a Dodge Ram project. The fuel pump on my 2007 Dodge Ram with a Hemi crapped out the other day, so we are changing it. And since I've never done it before, I figured I'd get halfway through it so I could explain what's been done so far. So that's what we're going to do. There's the gas tank and flashlight. First thing I did was disconnect the battery. Second thing I did, you got two lines coming off your filler neck. You got that little one and you got the big one. The big one is this. That goes on there. It's just a hose clamp. Screwdriver gets it right off of there, or a 7mm. The other thing is this. So that goes on that little line there, and the other end goes on the top of your fuel pump. I'm going to show you how these clips come out, if I can do it with one hand. So here we go. This is, I don't know what they call these little clips, but all I used was this little punch. You just kind of push that thing out, try to do it evenly, and that thing pops right out. So you got, this goes on the filler neck like so. That one goes on there, and the fuel pump, you got two on there. So in order of what I did, I disconnected the battery, disconnected those lines, and then there are two 16mm bolts that hold those brackets right there, which go on either side of this tank. I'll crawl under here. There's one, there's the other. So I sprayed them with PB Blast penetrating oil, lubricant, whatever the fuck you want to call it, and let it soak. And then I used my impact. Well, first I loosened it with a wrench just to make sure I wouldn't strip it. Once then it was loose, use the impact to get it off. That goes on right there on the big one. And I got a plug. So I loosened those two bolts, put a jack underneath it, lowered it and lowered it and lowered it. If you look right there, there's two of those. That's where the other side of that bracket goes in there. Hold on. So it goes like this. So when I let the weight down off of that thing, it popped this off up there, like so. Gas tank's inside of there. You start letting it down, the weight of gas tank pulls this down, this bracket. I sprayed some PB Blast in there too. Once the weight of the tank was free, I kind of moved it a little bit, and then you're able to finagle this thing. So you need to lift it up and out. Hard to explain with one hand, but you get the idea. There's the other one. So once those were loose, let's see. Once those were loose, I unplugged and undid all the connections. And then the one that's on here is the toughest one because I needed these little tools. So there's one of those, whatever you call them, connectors, and I had to use this to get underneath there, pop those little tabs out. Once I got that off, gently, this goes on like So gently just kind of wiggle this thing off of here. I started right here and just kind of worked my way around the edges until it popped off, and then so that's off. They do make a special tool for twisting this thing off, but the auto parts store didn't have it, so I got brass punches and just sprayed right here with penetrating oil, and used this brass punch and a hammer and kept whacking it. And the reason you want to do brass is if you won't get a spark. You don't want gasoline to go up in flames. So I have already done that. This is loose. This is going to come off. Maybe. Okay, so it was stuck on this plug. So that's off. And I'm going to clean this shit up before I take this pump out. And I'll show you what's going on with that. So I kind of use this thing to push that plastic so it pop out of there, because it's a tight fit. So I'm looking at how the old one works. I'm going to set up the new one just like it and pop it in. So that one went in very easy. The only thing was when I put the float on the new one, it was hard to get that little steel thing to click inside of the little plastic tab. So I put this behind the new one. Hard to see, but I put it behind there to keep that thing from flexing while this thing finally clicked in. So the new float is on and went in. This thing's kind of spring loaded, so I had to push down on it while I put this ring back on, and then use the punch to twist this back on and lock it. So now it's just a matter of sliding it back underneath there and slide it back under there and hook everything back up. So far it's been pretty painless. One thing though is my truck is lifted. It's only 2 inches or whatever, but still, I don't think I would recommend a driveway job on a truck that is not lifted a little bit, because I'm a pretty small guy and I fit under there with plenty of room, but I can't imagine being a big dude and doing this on a not lifted truck. Just FYI. Forgot to mention, this is the front of the gas tank. There's 2 hoses on there that have those, I don't even know what those connectors are called, but there's 2 of those connectors, so you just pop those off too. So you got 2 there, 2 there, you got an electrical plug there, and there's a little red tab on that electrical plug. I had to slide it over, and then this thing pops right off. This thing was the hardest one to get to. I had to use a special tool to get underneath there, but I popped those off. That's just a hose clamp, and then the other thing is right there. I showed you already how to take that off. But it's all pretty straightforward and pretty easy. Looks like I was wrong. So this cap here, this is where I'm guessing the fuel goes into the engine. So this is a big line, and that's this hose that's right behind me. That little one that I was showing you earlier, that is right there at my feet, that goes to the filler neck, that actually goes right here. This line here, that goes on the fuel pump, and then that plug right there goes in there. So that, I had that backwards. So make sure you watch this whole video. Alright, so YouTube, yeah, there we go. I couldn't have done this without my friend Chucky Boy, who came over. It's a motherfucker to get that thing back on. So right now it's running. Everything hooked back up. But without him, I couldn't have got this. Basically, that hose right there was hanging up on the frame and keeping me from being able to do this by myself. So yeah, he called and said he was on his way over this way. So got it in there. Everything's hooked up and it's running, and we are celebrating. Let's see here. So as usual, got questions, put them in the comments. If you like the videos I post, subscribe. Peace.